You ever have one of those moments where life flips a switch on you and just like that, everything you thought you were dealing with turns out to be something else entirely? That was me, 3 days after burying my grandfather, standing on our family's land, holding a cup of coffee that was supposed to be helping me grieve when a woman in heels and a power walk marched straight into our yard and tried to take everything. I wish I was joking. She introduced herself like she was royalty. Patricia Roberts, president of the Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association. You know the type, sharp smile, clipboard clutched like a Bible, one of those voices that always sounds like it's about to scold a waitress for getting the order wrong. And without so much as a pause for condolences, she handed me a red violation notice like she was doing me a favor. According to her and the mighty HOA handbook, the chickens and goats my grandfather had raised for decades were now illegal. Article 47B, subsection who knows what, forbade livestock within residential zones. Never mind the fact that our land had been a working farm since before HOA was even a twinkle in a board member's eye. Patricia gave me 72 hours to comply, or risk seizure proceedings. Caesurias in losing the land. Now look, I could have blown up right there. I was grieving, confused, insulted, but instead I smiled, thanked her for the notice, and walked right back into Grandpa Earl's house without saying a word. Because what Patricia didn't know, what she failed to even Google, was that the guy she just threatened wasn't just some backwoods heir with hay in his boots. I'm Jake Morrison, attorney at law. Harvard Law, top of my class. Specializing in wait for it property disputes and land protection. So yeah, Patricia brought a pamphlet to a gunfight. But I wasn't about to play my hand that early. No, I did exactly what my grandpa would have done. I listened. Watched. Set up cameras. And then I started digging. First thing I noticed. The signature at the bottom of that bylaw update. She waved at me like it was scripture. Supposedly signed by Grandpa in December. But here's the thing, was in the hospital that week, barely able to hold a pen. Something about it smelled off. Then my sister Emma called. Said Patricia had been harassing Grandpa for weeks, calling non-stop, offering to buy the farm for way less than market value. When he turned her down, she got nasty. Told him he'd regret it. He didn't tell me any of this while he was alive, probably to protect me. But now it all made sense. She wasn't just enforcing bylaws. She was running a hostile takeover. So I got my best friend Tommy, also a Harvard guy, tech wizard, to run a forensic check on the documents. And yep, the signature was fake. Patricia had lifted it from a scanned will and pasted it right onto a new HOA document. Didn't even bother matching the pixel depth. That was the first nail in her coffin. Second came when I finally cracked open Grandpa's old safe hidden behind the wardrobe, straight out of a movie. Inside was a map, older than me, with tribal markings and the words, "Sacred Ground. Keep protected." Alongside it, letters between Grandpa and a Lakota elder. Turns out, our backfield was a burial ground. Grandpa had promised the tribe he'd protect it. For 50 years, he honored that promise. But Patricia, she had plans. In a recorded call I found on a USB in the safe, yes, Grandpa thought of everything. She tells the developer she'll clear out the Morrison property so they can break ground by spring. A $200 million expansion plan, all riding on stealing our land and bulldozing sacred ground. And she thought she could just walk into my yard and hand me a fine. So when the 72 hours were up, Patricia returned with deputies, animal control, and even a photographer. She was ready for her victory parade. But instead, she found 80 neighbors in our driveway. Lakota elders standing beside me. A press crew I tipped off. And me, in a suit, briefcase in hand, ready to read her the law. I showed the deputies our original deed recorded before Lakeside Estates even existed, giving us full agricultural rights. I showed them the forgery. The audio recordings. The call with the developer. The threats. The tribal map. I laid it all out, calm and slow, like the opening statement of my career. And for the first time, Patricia lost her words. She stammered. Tried to talk over me. Claimed she was misled. Claimed I was manipulating things. But it was too late. The neighbors, the officers, even the elders, everyone had seen her cards. And they didn't like what she was playing with. Within 24 hours, Patricia resigned as HOA president. A week later, she tried to sue me for defamation. Her lawyer, some $1,000 an hour type from Billings who probably thought he'd be up against some hick in jeans. Imagine his face when the judd-hair woman Patricia had previously harassed over zoning complaints welcomed me as Montana's top property litigator. Yeah. That hearing was over before it began. But here's the part that stuck with me. As all of this unfolded, lawsuits, press attention, even a federal investigation into HOA corruption, what meant the most wasn't beating Patricia in court. It wasn't even exposing her fraudulent empire. It was watching our neighbors rally around that sacred field, laying down stones where the burial marker stood. Bringing offerings. Sitting in silence. My sister opened a cafe on the property's sacred grounds. The tribe now holds public ceremonies there twice a year. The HOA rewrote its bylaws to include tribal recognition and historical land exemptions. And me. I got elected as HOA president by 97% of the vote. Our goats are still here. Chickens too. And not a single soul dared to challenge it. But just when I thought it was over, I got an email from a family in Malibu. Another HOA president. Same tactics. Same threats. Different name, Catherine Walsh. Seems like Patricia wasn't the only one playing this game. So yeah, round 2 might be coming. And I'll be ready. Let me ask you something, do you think HOAs like this were ever really about community standards? Or is it just power hiding behind paperwork? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because what happened on my land might be happening in your neighborhood right now. And someone out there might need to hear that they're not alone. Justice isn't always loud. But when it hits, you feel it. You ever have one of those moments where life flips a switch on you and just like that, everything you thought you were dealing with turns out to be something else entirely? That was me, 3 days after burying my grandfather, standing on our family's land, holding a cup of coffee that was supposed to be helping me grieve, when a woman in heels and a power walk marched straight into our yard and tried to take everything. I wish I was joking. She introduced herself like she was royalty. Patricia Roberts, president of the Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association. You know the type, sharp smile, clipboard clutched like a Bible, one of those voices that always sounds like it's about to scold a waitress for getting the order wrong. And without so much as a pause for condolences, she handed me a red violation notice like she was doing me a favor.